Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item D is please rise for the pledge. Any discussion? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mrs. Flynn, would you please call the roll?
Kelly Shantae here. Linda Gay,
Here.
Dave Goddard, Larry Giordano,
Here.
Edward McCormick,
Present.
Charles McLeod,
Here.
Mary Ann Meaden,
Here.
Marion Quinn,
Here.
Mark Tartor.
Here. Okay. Reading of the district mission. Our mission is to empower all students to be self-directed, lifelong learners who willingly contribute to their community and lead passionate, purposeful lives. Okay. Next item, the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Tornator, I'd like to make a motion that we remove item K from the consent agenda and that we add the following resolution, that the Board of Education accept the resignation of Dr. Stacy Morgan effective March 23rd, 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention. Motion carries. And we will move on to correspondence. Anyone have any correspondence they wish to share?
I do. We received an email this evening from a Jennifer Boy, who wrote the proposal by New Solutions K-12 Solutions to provide support to the district MTSS committee was on board docs. I do not see what the cost would be if the board voted to support this proposal, as it was not included in the two attachments on board docs. She asked for that email to be read. She wrote that she was encouraging the board to remember why we are sitting here tonight. I encourage you to carefully consider how you vote on George Koros's contract. $36,000 for 1.5 speaking days is, in my opinion, a frivolous use of taxpayer dollars.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, board president's remarks. I'd like to thank all of you that came out tonight. Apparently you love the board and the board meetings that we held. We thank you all for coming. Happy Valentine's Day. And I will now defer to our superintendent.
Okay, couple announcements tonight. First of all, the next Arlington Connect community engagement session is Thursday, February 23rd. We have been we're very hopeful for a good turnout at the next two community engagement sessions, as the topics will revolve around facilities. And in an effort to see if it helps people who maybe have some scheduling conflicts, we will hold two sessions on the 23rd and see how that goes. One at 5:30 and one at 7. So that may give people some flexibility. We're not really sure exactly how that's going to play out, but we're going to try that. And that is different than has been done in the past. The portrait of a graduate design team. There's a couple of emails that have come in and one or two loose ends that I'm trying to tie up there. But generally speaking, the committee has been established. We have a nice makeup of community members, students, teachers, business leaders, and various different post-secondary college representatives, so board members and administrators. So a very eclectic mix, and we're looking forward to getting that work started on March 6th. So we'll keep the board updated on that process. And then finally, there's a community survey that went out today as part of our community engagement work. We want to be able to tell our story of our district and what we do here. And the purpose of the survey is to try to get feedback and input on how people associate with the district and use that as we begin to tailor, future communications. So we hope that you will all take that survey, and it is open. And so we encourage you. It went live, I think, yesterday. So hopefully if you missed that, you will look for that and participate. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 6, public comment for agenda items only. This is the first of 2 opportunities for people to address the board. When your name is called from the speakers list for agenda items, you may speak for up to 3 minutes on agenda items only. Your remarks must be addressed to the board. All speakers must conduct themselves in a civil manner. Although we do not engage in dialogue, we are listening. Comments about individual district personnel or students is not permitted. If you leave your contact information with Mrs. Flynn, our district clerk, the superintendent or one of his staff will contact you as soon as possible. Mrs. Flynn.
We have one person for this section, but we have 3 students for the second section. Do you want to combine it?
Board?
I'm comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
that sounds good. Okay, yes, let's do that.
But we're leaving it open, the second one, correct?
Sure.
Right.
But the 3 individuals
Right.
that signed up are students.
Right, no, that I don't have a problem with, but I just want to make sure we have that second section open.
Yes.
Yes.
Could the rule be that the students be in the first session as a rule of thumb without a?
Ed's saying if we could have a rule that whenever we do have students that appear at our board meetings, that they always can go first.
Makes
Right.
sense. Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, let's do that.
So, Mr. Andrew Stock.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Stock, and I'm a 5th grade teacher at Arthur S. May School. And I'm here tonight to speak about an issue that's on tonight's agenda, a recommendation that all elementary school teachers district-wide be required to use the math program called Investigations beginning in September 2023. I found in the board agenda a slide entitled Elementary Math Update. Slide 5 of the presentation includes the student performance data that appears to serve as the basis for this recommendation. The slide compares outcomes based on the instructional programs students received. The 2 programs in this comparison are Investigations and another program called Go Math. The assessment tool used for this comparison was the January iReady diagnostic test. According to the chart, the percentage of students reaching grade level or higher with Investigations varied from one grade level to another, ranging anywhere from 22% to 42%. Averaging those percentages for all elementary grade levels, it appears that about 32.5% of students who used Investigations demonstrated grade level proficiency on the iReady test. I'm deeply concerned about the prospect of Investigations being mandated district-wide on the basis of this data. To begin with, this is one single data point that has yet to be supported by data from other assessment tools or even a second round of iReady testing. Secondly, this one data point relates to only half of a school year. In other words, we have yet to see how the entirety of the program will affect student outcomes over the course of a full year. Also, according to these results, Investigations has yet to prove that it can get even a third of our elementary students to grade level. To be clear, the recommendation before the board tonight is not about requesting additional time to study Investigations. It is not about seeking an opportunity to gather more data about its effectiveness. With respect to student outcomes, which is the most important thing, the recommendations before the board tonight is about mandating the use of the Investigations program in every Arlington classroom right now, based on a single data point covering half of a school year showing that less than a third of Arlington students succeeded in reaching grade level with this program. I think we can do better than that. And I think we owe it to our students to be sure about this decision. I would add that I don't use either Go Math or Investigations, the two programs identified in slide 5. In my 5th grade classroom at Arthur S. May, 63% of my students, nearly 2/3 of the class, reached grade level proficiency on that same January iReady test. That's 30 points better than the current success rate for Investigations at the elementary level district-wide. But if a mandate is approved, I will have to give up my program. I therefore ask the board to refrain from mandating Investigations district-wide at this time. We need more evidence that such a move would truly be in the best interest of all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Flynn?
Mo Kelly.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I would like to speak on the remarks made by President Tornatore during the last Board of Education meeting. It is against board policy to respond to any public comments, whether it is in agreement or dissent. President Tornatore states this rule every board meeting, yet in response to a community member saying that they allegedly knew of students outside of the district who were attending Arlington schools and wanted to start an investigation of these students, he encouraged the speaker to commence this investigation and report any students found to be infiltrating the district. Not only is this dangerous for the safety of children and their families across Poughkeepsie, but for the integrity of the board. All children deserve the best education possible. And while yes, using false addresses is prohibited, these situations need to be looked at by professionals, not community members, not peers, not parents. These situations need to be taken seriously and follow the correct legal procedures. This statement by President Tornatore creates a dangerous precedent for the future of the board. This rule is put into place to avoid partisanship. This completely negates that. If the president of the board is supposedly allowed to respond, who is to say that a different board member can't respond this week or the next meeting? In addition, a board member responding to public comment can impose their own personal opinion onto other board members instead of allowing them time to process the statement themselves and form their own opinion. Either way, this was an incredibly irresponsible and unprofessional statement to make, and I hope that the entire board will learn from this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Emma Adams, and I would like to address comments made last board meeting in regards to students allegedly sneaking into Arlington Central School District. The speaker who made these comments last month used heavily racialized language to refer to these students, including the phrases, "those people," and "they don't look like they belong in the district." While we recognize the speaker did not specifically speak on racial identities, it was overtly clear through her tone and language that the students of color were the target of her comments. Language use is intrinsically connected to bias, and this language dehumanizes and criminalizes students of color. Further, the speaker cited a rumor as testimony to these accusations. Gossip among parents in the community is absolutely not grounds for launching an investigation that will be disruptive for parents and their children, not to mention harming the academic and social environment of the child. To make matters worse, the speaker stated that she would personally be happy to conduct an investigation into the private affairs of these students and their families, which is not only wholly unprofessional and uncalled for, but extremely detrimental to the well-being of the students. We have concerns that this behavior would lead to parents harassing students of color with little to no basis, concern that deepened after the board expressed approval for moms taking measures like these. Individuals in positions of power, such as these white moms, use racially coded language to rationalize the over-policing of homes of students of color. Other phrases that were used at last month's meeting include describing the fights currently occurring in the school to be a problem of the home and attributed to vicious cycles of poverty. Statements like this focus on racially biased and classed issues instead of targeting the larger, deeper-rooted problem, systematic racism within the district. I hope the board will keep my comments in mind and remember that the safety and well-being of the students is the most important thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sophie Mode.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As on the agenda is the issue of security, I wanted to speak on the disproportionate impacts of school resource officers on students of color and the lack of proven benefits of SROs in schools. In the Arlington Central School District, Black boys have been suspended at a rate 3 times greater than white boys. Black children across the United States public school system represent 16% of the population, but 34% of one-time suspensions and 43% of repeated suspensions. Suspensions and expulsions increase the risk of future arrests or involvement in the juvenile and adult criminal justice systems, increase students being held back and failure to graduate. They decrease chances of college enrollment and general educational attainment. Students experience both a loss of classroom time and the impacts of a punitive system. Arrests nearly triple with the presence of SROs, disproportionately impacting students of color and students with disabilities. There's little to no evidence that the presence of SROs is effective in deterring violence. In 197 instances of gun violence in school from 1999 to 2008, SROs intervened successfully in only 3 instances. During that same period, the number of injuries and deaths during a school shooting was approximately 2.5 times higher in schools with SROs. When school shootings have been planned and then prevented, research shows that this aversion occurs because of trusted adults who students informed. Another study shows that police presence leads to non-criminal student behavior or disorderly conduct being escalated to summonses and criminal charges. The presence of SROs in schools has detrimental impacts on students, even if they are not personally experiencing unjust treatment. They shape the perceptions of young people of color, leading them to feel criminalized and unwelcome in a school environment. This also causes increased stress, fear, trauma, and anxiety that have consequences on students' physical and mental health. The presence of SROs and exclusionary discipline hurts students' academics and makes future misbehavior, truancy, and dropout rates higher. There is no proven impact of SRO presence on students' general feeling of safety, only when officers form individual relationships with students. The policies on the agenda tonight are beneficial. We should have an in-house director of security and a group with various community stakeholders working towards safety and security. But as both of these entities work towards solutions, I found it essential to highlight the harmful impacts of focusing our efforts on increasing the presence of SROs in schools. The presence of counselors, the presence of highly supportive adults whose students feel genuinely care about them, addressing the root causes of incidents instead of responding with immediate punishment, the presence of peer mediation groups or programs like Natural Helpers, improving relationships between students, teachers, and administrators. These are all things which actually help reduce violence in schools. I hope you will take this into account when approving future policies and having discussions around safety and security. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, next item is reports, discussion items. Todd Richard, LaGrange Middle School. One. Okay, one.
Just give me 1 second. I brought like a mini office here. So. Oh, you have the presentation? Okay, great. Okay, I'm ready to begin. I know it's timed. Okay. All right, welcome to our Ignite presentation here for LaGrange Middle School. We're going to talk about the great things that we're doing here at LaGrange, and we're happy to share with everyone here, with the board and our community members and teachers and students present. I don't control it. I thought it was, Todd said it was time.
It is.
Oh,
The next slide.
all right, sorry. We had over 30 new faculty members and staff join us at LaGrange this year. They're listed up there, from PPS to new teachers to teaching assistants. They've really added a wealth of knowledge and information for us. These are our values. We trust one another. We respect each other at LaGrange, and we take responsibility for each other and our actions. Those are our LMS values: trust, respect, and responsibility. Our LMS vision, I'll read that to you directly. Our mission at LaGrange Middle School is to create a community where all students grow academically and socially in a safe environment where individuality, joy for learning, and mutual respect are valued every day. Our LMS vision, I'm not going to read in full. We have 15 seconds per slide, but I do want to point out a section here. We envision a school where students demonstrate being trustworthy, show respect for each other and our school. And we really take that seriously and to heart. We communicate a lot, and we have a quarterly newsletter that we release spring, summer, fall. To the right, you'll see the teacher bulletin. We share resources with teachers. We communicate with parents weekly in the LMS Parent Weekly Updates, and we talk with staff weekly as well. Meaningful engagement of families and community. We have two committees that I was going to say Dr. Richard, Mr. Richard host, the LMS Shared Decision Making team and the LMS Parent Principal Conversations. So those are held monthly. We had a Words Matter contest. Very proud of our students. They're pictured here. Great phrases that they decorated our building with, such as work hard. These glasses are working, but I don't know why I couldn't read that. Sorry. Arts and education. We have invited guest speakers to inspire our students and talk about character ed. You see on the upper right-hand side, one of our speakers here. We do just great work here with the arts and believe in arts, music, education at LaGrange. We have an LMS food pantry and clothing closet that's kept by Mrs. Wagner here at LaGrange Middle School and other staff members as well. And as our community has needs, we're here to, reach out and be part of that, meeting that need. We started this program this year, Outstanding Student Awards. You'll see a sample on the left-hand side. That's not an actual student name. That's just a sample student name. On the right, we have, on the right, we have the list for Q1. We hosted on January 18th at Arlington High School, a student equity panel discussion. LMS is seated there with the high school and UVMS, and we will talk a little bit more about that at the end of the Ignite. And that's a montage of all the kids. LMS is a proud No Place for Hate ambassador school. The picture you see on the lower right-hand side, are our LMS kids holding the pledge signing to the No Place for Hate program. We're celebrating this month, Black History Month. You see some of the people that we have featured, including Dr. Samuel Counts, a pioneer in kidney transplantation. On the upper right, Miles Davis. On the lower right, Ketanji Brown Jackson. LMS believes and supports personalized learning. We have embedded instruction in social emotional learning and character ed. iReady and common assessments used to determine tiers of support, project and problem-based learning for 21st century mindset and skills. Here you have a montage of our STEAM. The A in STEAM is the arts. Tech department, kids creating things, kids collaborating, and the creativity that the kids are showing is really helpful as they're growing and developing and learning. Our music department is phenomenal. What you see here, one of my personal favorites on the lower right is when the kids came into the office and they played a few tunes. And I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a personal concert and free, which was nice. Grease is coming soon. And if you're not familiar, I'm not going to sing anything from Grease, but come and enjoy the show in late March. The dates are posted on our website. These are the kids rehearsing for the upcoming show, Grease. Facility upgrades in progress, new bleachers. Wood will be repurposed in our tech classes. There is a lot of great material. We have a new conference room pictured right there. And new padding in the back gym. So, a lot of the next actually Arlington Connect is about facilities. And we want to thank the LMS Parent Teacher Association for all you do. Thank you for all you do to support LaGrange Middle School and our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I feel like I just won the marathon.
Thank you for pinch hitting. Anyone have any questions for Linda?
Thank you for the great presentation.
Thanks.
Pantries are something near and dear to my heart. How do you get the items for the pantry? Do your teachers and staff bring the things in? And my second question is, if a student needs something, do they just walk in and they don't have to ask to go to that area? Or do they have to get the okay? Or is it just, hands off, and if they need some deodorant, they just walk in, get it, and walk out? How does that process work?
Yeah, so on the first question, in terms of giving, I want to give you very brief context. I came from the high school, and they're great people at the high school, by the way. But one thing I have found about LaGrange Middle School, it's such a giving community. And you have teachers will put out something in the principal's corner or in the newsletter, and there's a lot of giving. They give and give and give. And sometimes we want to make enough room for everything that they're giving. In terms of students fulfilling a need that they have, we would try to do it, discreetly and supportive and all of that. I know the counselors reach out to students that they, may know about and things like that. I know that teachers find ways, you can imagine all the different situations and all the different scenarios, but they find ways to do it in a caring, respectful, and discreetful way. And so that's as best I'll say about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Kelly?
Thanks for your presentation. I'm just wondering if you could speak to any actions, programs, philosophies, anything that you've been sort of integrating this year to make LMS a more harmonious learning experience for the students.
So in terms of creating a better culture in the school, we have a few things. So we were really proud to be named an ambassador school for No Place for Hate. In terms of harmonious, to me, that means kids respecting each other, listening to each other, being civil with one another. And we believe here at LMS that when you have that kind of safe environment where kids feel valued and respected, they're going to be open to learning. And when we have things like the food pantry and things like that, they're going to have needs that they may not have been met at home, be able to then learn. We base it all on Maslow hierarchy of needs, that the very base needs are really those safety and security needs. Other things that we do is we make sure we're in the hallways. That makes people know that, we're here for them, that we're keeping the school an orderly transition, especially kind of during the day and all of that. And we've had student assemblies throughout, parent communications. We believe in community connection and communication. So the work of schools in the day-to-day to create a kind of a harmonious, safe environment, it is a day-to-day job. It's not a kind of a one and done thing. So it's something that we do every single day in many different facets.
Anyone else?
Oh, I'm sorry. And excuse me. So any other questions before, because I have a special treat. We have our LMS students who will do a brief presentation on our equity programs to actually your point. And forgive me, I was not forgetting about you. I was in the zone answering questions. So, but if any other questions for me before the kids come up.
Clearly, nope. Looks
Okay,
like we're good.
kids, come on up.
Bring it on down.
And I just want to introduce him, my apologies. We'll have to begin Gabby Licari. She'll talk about equity, our equity program here at LaGrange Middle School. That will be followed by Arvin Verghese, who will talk about our No Place for Hate initiative and program as an ambassador school. And then finally, we will have Shantae Winda, who will talk about our panel discussion that we led and hosted at Arlington High School. Kids, it's all yours. Now, this doesn't really pull that. So I'm gonna try that. Okay.
Okay. Please excuse me if I stutter. Hi, my name is Gabby Licari, and I'm in 7th grade at LMS. The LMS Student Equity team is made up of about 25 students in grades 6 to 8 and is led by Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Potts, and Mr. Zucchero. We meet twice a month after school and talk about ways to create a safe environment at LMS where everyone is accepted. We work to teach students on how their actions can affect other people greatly. We also want to make sure that kids know that they aren't alone in the weird transition between child and teenager that happens in middle school. We also have worked on projects like No Place for Hate, a panel discussion with other schools in Arlington, and an equity mural at LMS. The mission of the LMS Student Equity team is to promote fairness, acceptance, and kindness, and to ensure our school is a safe and welcoming place for all.
Hi, my name is Arvin Verghese. I am a 6th grader at LMS Equity Team. LMS has been designated as a No Place for Hate ambassador school. The No Place for Hate is an initiative made by the ADL, Anti-Defamation League. Believing that who we are and accepting our differences, the 6 components of the No Place for Hate pledge states that I will seek to gain understanding of those who are different from myself. I will speak out against prejudice and discrimination. I'll reach out to support those who are targets of hate. I'll promote respect for people and help foster justice and prejudice-free schools. I believe that one person can make a difference. No person can be innocent bystanders when it comes to opposing hate. I recognize that it's respecting individual dignity and promoting intergroup harmony. There are the responsibility of all students. LMS is a proud No Place for Hate ambassador school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good night. My name is Shantae Winda, and I'm in 8th grade. Last month, LMS was proud to lead a discussion, including myself, Gabby Lakari, who is in 7th grade, and Arvin Varghese, who is in 6th grade. Our equity team had the opportunity to present at a panel discussion with students from LMS, UVMS, and AHS. Students discussed their viewpoints on many different issues pertaining to their own experience with equity. The panel discussion opened new doors for schools in Arlington School District. The mind of the administrative team in Arlington Schools is what is next? What more can we do? These questions in the minds of the administrative staff are helping to birth creativity and transformation for the lives that are held in LMS. Administrators are carrying something important on their backs. They are always considering the next move and are always on the lookout for possibilities and how to advance our schools. This open discussion showed life and hope for schools. This shows that humans still have a drive to see and experience something new and improved. The panel discussion captivated me for this very reason, hope. The discussion created a positive and influential atmosphere. The administrative team has kickstarted a passion in these children for better, not for worse, but for the greater in the future. I was able to pull joy out of this discussion. This showed me that Arlington cares about us, that Arlington supports us. In the LGI room at the high school, I began to see open and supportive ears to the students who are representing their selective schools. I admire how Arlington School District really magnifies the students' voices. We are being heard. We feel immense appreciation. Look around. There's disarray. There's confusion. There are many with empty answers. Students need to feel safe in schools. These children need to see proper examples in their school and at home. Students are open to many elements. Many have opinions on certain things in school and refrain from sharing because of fear. Fear is something that cripples minds, but luckily the Arlington School District is rising to the occasion. Schools are realizing that there's a silent cry in their building that is continuing to grow. Administrators' ears and eyes are being opened. The panel discussion was an answer to many cries in Arlington. It gave room for something more. It birthed an urgency of improvement. Today, we see teenagers taking their lives. The count of suicide has risen 7 to 8% across the school diaspora within the United States. Many see school as just a place of learning, but Arlington District has, is, and will always see it as a place to grow and develop, a place that has monumentalized safety within the walls of our schools. This must not stop. Board of Education, we must continue to strive for an abundance of change. We must continue to remain future-driven. Equity must never cease to echo throughout our schools. At times, you may be getting more nays than yays, but there is a group. There is a group that agrees, that says enough is enough. Stay unified. Your unity will spread throughout the entire school district, becoming an example to other school districts both near and far. A people divided against itself cannot stand. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Your small but consistent effort will cause the Arlington Central School District to thrive. Gwendolyn Brooks says, we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, students. Thank you, Board of Education, and great work.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda, Arlington Central School District World Language Program. Dr. Daisy Rodriguez.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm here this evening to do a brief presentation on our world language program. The Board of Education, all of you have had requested additional information. So in collaboration with the high school world language department, we put this together. So thank you, Tori Biasati, that's here tonight. And I don't know, any other world language teachers? Great, so thank you for being here this evening. So on the next slide, I'll share more information about the current offerings. I don't know, Mr. Zucchero walked away with the with the clicker. All right, here we go. So in Arlington School District, we offer 3 world languages. We currently offer French, Italian, and Spanish. Most of our students typically start learning a world language in 7th grade. At the middle school level, the level 1 course is spread over a 2-year period. So they take level 1A in 7th grade and level 1B in 8th grade. We also do have level 1 courses offered in Arlington High School for students that may not have completed the course for some reason in middle school or may have transferred in. There were also questions about how does this compare? How do our offerings compare to neighboring districts? So I just took kind of a sampling of some districts that are nearby to compare what we offer compared to what neighboring districts. So you can see it is pretty similar to our neighboring districts. Some school districts also offer world language at the elementary level. It's not as common in our area, but I wanted to just share some of the potential impacts of early language learning. We know that learning a language has many benefits, including increased academic achievement. It also helps to translate into your first language. So learning a second language can actually improve your English literacy skills. We know that starting to learn a language earlier on can help a student eventually reach proficiency in that second language. One of the challenges of implementing world language at the elementary level is the amount of time that is recommended to be able to really do it justice. The American Council on Teaching Foreign Languages recommends at least 90 minutes per week or 2 times per week, equivalent of 90 minutes. As you know, our elementary schedules, it's very challenging to fit any other specials or other demands on the elementary schedule. So in my opinion, that's why many districts do not currently offer a world language at the elementary level, because something else would have to give. So unlike other disciplines where you see the course is attached to a grade level where you have Global 9, Global 10, English 9, English 10, foreign language, world languages works a little bit differently. Instead of grade bands, world languages are really attached to proficiency ranges. So from novice, which is the beginner level, where students are communicating on information with very familiar topics like colors and basic greetings, and all the way to advanced, where students are able to have more of a formal conversation and some concrete topics using paragraphs. So all of the courses are by levels instead of by grade levels. We currently offer levels 1 through 5 in our world language program. Level 1 is considered to be the novice level. Again, we do offer level 1 at both middle schools and the high school. Levels 2 and 3 is considered intermediate level. Students do take a checkpoint exam at the end of each of these proficiency ranges. So at the end of at the end of level 1, they will take a checkpoint A exam. At the end of level 3, they'll take a checkpoint B exam, and it's a proficiency exam to show that they have mastered that language at that point. Checkpoint C is for students in levels 4 and 5, which is the equivalent of a college level course. We do have many students at the high school that are continuing on to take levels 4 and 5 of the language that they have selected, and they can reach up to mid to high intermediate level in that world language. So here's some more information about earning high school credit in order to fulfill graduation requirements in New York State. So in New York State, world language is a graduation requirement. All students must earn at least 1 credit to be able to graduate. At the end of level 1, students will take checkpoint A proficiency exam. At the middle school level, this would be after level 1B. Or if they take it for the first time in the high school, it would just be after level 1, potentially after 9th grade. And at the end of those courses and that checkpoint exam, the student will earn the credit and fulfill their traditional Regents diploma graduation requirements. Students that complete levels 2 and 3 in either French, Italian, or Spanish and pass the checkpoint B comprehensive exam will earn credit towards advanced Regents diploma. Level 5 courses can potentially earn students up to 6 college credits or 3 advanced placement college board credits by the end of level 5. So this is another great opportunity for our students to earn college credits before they leave us. Here's some information regarding our current enrollment numbers at both middle schools. So you can see the largest enrollment is really found in our Spanish sections. And we have about 2 sections of each of French and Italian at each of the grade levels. The enrollment is pretty similar in both schools. At the high school level, again, we offer each world language is offered level 1 through 5. You can see that level 1 is the lowest enrollment simply because most of our students here in Arlington do meet that requirement before they leave middle school. So these are more for students that may have transferred in or may have not met the requirements at the middle school level. And you'll see our numbers really increase in levels 3 and 4 and then taper off. But you can see we have really high enrollment in our world language department. So I wanted to transition to Mr. Finch. I will talk a little bit about staffing and recruitment of our world language staff. So Mr. Finch.
So I'd like to, good evening, everybody. I'd like to just ask people in the room that have school-age children to raise their hand. Anybody that has, you please encourage your child or children to become a world language teacher. We need that. And I mean that. You see our staffing levels here, the staffing levels since my time 3 years ago have not changed. And I can just go to the next slide there, Liam, please. Oh, I have a clicker. Okay, thanks. So I just want to give you a flavor for some recruitment history, and I'll just give you 2 data points. So in 2020 and 2021, we had 4 Spanish positions we were looking for, 1 probationary position and 3 temporary positions. We had, for those 4 positions, we had 14 candidates. Of the 14 candidates, 4 accepted interviews and 2 declined. Ultimately, we were able to fill the positions, but you can see that that's not a deep pool at all. This current school year, we had 2 Spanish positions available, 1 temp and 1 probationary. We had no candidates for the temporary position. We had 6 candidates for the probationary position, and 1 accepted an interview and was offered the position. Luckily, we found someone we thought was high quality. So it gives you a sense for the challenges that we face. So the certification issues are such that, you know, we don't see a lot of people with these certifications. We are doing our best to find certified teachers and put them in the classrooms. If we don't find a certified world language teacher, what we'll end up doing is we'll go to a certified teacher in a similar area, for example, ENL with fluent in Spanish, for example, and then we'll continue to advertise and look until we get a certified applicant that applies. So we don't ever give up on that. We make sure that we continue to look for certified people. So what are we going to do about it? Marketing, right? So how are we going to find a deeper candidate pool? A couple of thoughts on that. We continue to attend job fairs. Obviously, that's an important piece. There's a diversity job fair sponsored by the Lower Hudson group that I'm a part of, that we're a part of. We go to that and we have had some success finding candidates at that job fair. We've been thinking about this concept of grow your own, and we've been exploring that. Dr. Rodriguez and I have been working with SUNY New Paltz to come up with a pipeline for our teaching assistants. Much easier to become a certified elementary teacher than it is to become a certified world language teacher. So there are some tricky things. There are some nuances that we have to work through, but we have a lot of teaching assistants that expressed interest in becoming certified. So have to figure out the right way to get them certified and create our own pipeline. You know, we don't talk about this much in education, but the concept of a headhunter, right, for hard to find certification areas, thinking about that. Another thing we need to be back in the olden days, we used to be able to stick to, you know, the first couple of salary schedule steps. We have a hard to find certification area. I think that as a district, we have to come to terms with the fact that we're going to be going up the salary schedule to attract the certifications that we need. And then if all else fails, we have to think about things. We have to think about program adjustments. And if we want to continue to offer foreign language and we're not able to find certified folks, I know that we have some things underway with regard to distance learning. Not necessarily ideal, but I do think we need to have a backup plan for what happens when we don't, if we want to continue to offer 3 foreign languages or expand for that matter. So the reason why I'm injected into this is because as we create programming, it's becoming more difficult to staff in certain areas. World languages, technology, sciences, family and consumer science, library media specialist. We had very few applicants for library media specialist. You know, librarians is an amazing thing, right? Really cool thing. But we need to encourage more young people to apply to pursue these things. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finch. So with that said, we have amazing world language teachers here in our district. So we currently offer a lot of extracurriculars along with our world language program. And a lot of these are volunteer, completely volunteer. Our teachers really believe so much in providing these opportunities for our students that they really do this on their own time. So we really thank them for that. So the students do have an opportunity to join a club. We have honor societies as well associated with each of our world languages. And they also offer trips to different countries that I'll talk a little more about it in a minute. But we know that the best way for students to really learn language and the culture is really to be fully immersed in it. We do offer, our students have participated in study abroad, so they have traveled our French club. Here are some their trips to France. Our Italian club and honor society. And these are some pictures from their last Italy trip. Of course, we know that we haven't had trips recently due to restrictions, COVID restrictions, but we're excited to get these up and running again. And again, this is the Spanish trip. So for this school year, we actually do have students that are scheduled to go during spring break to Italy, France, and Costa Rica. So these trips are organized either through passports.com or World Stride. So we're really excited to get these programs off the ground again. And again, we thank our teachers for organizing this opportunity for our students. I know, so personally, I studied French when I was in high school, and I had the opportunity to visit France when I was 16. So instead of a sweet 16, I asked my parents to go to France, and it's something that I'll never forget. So I envy the students that are going soon. Any questions?
Chip? No. Kelly?
Ed, did you have a question?
Yep, go ahead.
So I have quite a few, but so I'm going down my list. My first question, do we have ESL classes now? I mean, dual language classes in elementary school in any of our elementary schools where the teachers have part of the day in, like, let's say Spanish, part of the day in
No, we
English?
do not offer dual language classes in Arlington.
No.
No.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead?
I think Paul exited stage left, but maybe if he could come back a minute, I have a question for him. Paul, you talked about recruiting. Are we doing enough? Are we thinking big enough? Are we spending enough money on a extended intensive recruiting effort? Are we trying to are we using the method from the 70s where people just sort of walked in the door and applied? Are we going where they are?
We need to be more proactive, and that's why I mentioned the concept of a headhunter. And I think that we do need to think differently about recruitment. I neglected to mention that we do advertise on OLAS. We do advertise with Recruit Front, which pushes all of our job postings to Indeed. We do advertise with Top School Jobs, which is connected to Ed Week. That's national. But to answer your question, at the bottom line is we need to do more, and we need to think differently.
Would it make sense to codify that strategy in a way that would include all of those things, or exhibit all of those things, such that it's repeatable and sustainable over time? Because we talk about stuff,
yeah,
and things, and but it's not a great track record of repeatability of from year to year. And it's not only for world languages, but I would imagine for physics teachers, probably for teachers at large, given where we are in terms of service time now with the teaching staff. Does it make sense to develop some type of strategy that would come to us that could be embedded as part of it?
Yes, I definitely think that that's the case.
So we can look forward to that?
Sure. Yep.
Thank you.
Kelly?
So, not a poll question. Back to Daisy. I guess one of my big questions, and one of the reasons why I asked for a bit of a report on where we currently are with our languages, is I'm interested in what we're doing to mentor the teachers who are newer, the teachers who maybe aren't as experienced as in the past, the teachers who are maybe sort of on the cusp, but we need to fill in a spot. So we're bringing on someone who maybe loves kids and loves the environment, but they are just new and they need training, they need mentoring, they need help, they need someone to help them with a lesson plan. What are we doing to empower those teachers to succeed? What are we doing in terms of rewarding or acknowledging the current teachers who are spending their valuable time mentoring and coaching the newer teachers?
So there is an existing mentor program that is run out of Daisy's office. I will say that Dr. Contes is working with the Human Resource Department on reviewing what that looks like and how we adapt the mentoring program to meet the needs of the incoming teachers that may have less experience than some of the teachers we've had in the past. I was having a conversation with Dr. Moyer about this and making sure that we have certain threads that every new teacher is exposed to. And for example, classroom management strategies would be a simple example of a thread that we'd have for all classroom teachers. By way of example, 20 years ago when I was in Chappaqua as a teacher, all new teachers were trained in something called skillful teacher. All new teachers were trained in dimensions of learning. And that's that sort of thing. We're working to bolster the program and make it much more robust and responsive to the needs
So right now, what does the mentor program look like?
Yep. Do you have that?
So all new teachers are partnered with a mentor, and they meet monthly. They provide the support that the teacher needs. So it's really driven by the mentee at the way it's set up currently. But like Paul mentioned, we are looking to make it more streamlined so that way all new teachers have a similar experience and are meeting certain benchmarks each school year. But they can meet formally and informally, common planning time together, sharing best practices. I know some teachers even visit each other's classroom to see lessons in action. So it really is driven by what the new teacher needs. Sometimes we hire a new teacher that's new to us, but it's experienced somewhere else. So it really is dependent on their level of experience and what areas they really need. But the mentee and the mentor teacher really form that relationship where they determine what's needed.
So if you have a new teacher who's never created lesson plans before and has never taught, let's say, 7th grade Spanish before, I mean, what's the plan? They shouldn't, in theory, just be released to the class without any idea of what to do. I mean, are they given sample documents? Are their mentors given a stipend to help them to spend all that time with them?
Yeah, so mentors do receive a stipend. And also, so part of the teacher preparation program to be a certified teacher, that is some of the things that they learn, how to plan a lesson, how to deliver a lesson in front of a class. So those are things that they generally come to us with. But the mentor teacher and the administrators in the building can support teachers if they have that need. And perhaps they didn't learn it in college.
But we recognize that structure leads to some variability depending on the mentor. And so we do need to work in this area.
You mentioned earlier that it's difficult to teach a foreign language in elementary school because then other things that are being taught in elementary school have to maybe, be put to the side. But I'm just wondering then, how do other districts do it?
Yeah, so other districts, I've seen it done different ways. It could be a special, right? So just like students go to art, in some schools, kids go to Spanish, right? So they might go for 30 minutes to a world language special. So I've seen some elementary schools do it that way. One of the challenges with that is that they typically won't get the recommended amount of minutes. So the 90 minutes a week that is recommended, they wouldn't get that through that exposure. Other districts use a dual language model, like you mentioned before. The dual language program is a way of delivering instruction. So students would get all of the content areas through that second language, right? So they would learn math and science and social studies in Spanish or whatever the target language is in that dual language program. So some students in other districts do learn a second language through immersion in a dual language program.
Are we looking into bringing on students from Vassar, Marist, Dutchess to teach? I think that was something that was maybe tossed around in the past. And like Arthur S. May, there are different language programs at those colleges. And if those students are looking to volunteer or maybe get credit, are we looking to sort of tap into that pool?
Yeah, I know that when we recruit, we reach out to all the local colleges, but I can tell you that all the districts around us are looking for the same people. We're all looking for the same world language teachers. So there really is a shortage. There just aren't enough to go around to fill all the vacancies.
Sorry, Daisy. I didn't mean teachers. I meant students who could help out. That's what I meant.
It's not something that we've looked into before, but I mean, we can definitely look into having students come in. They wouldn't be able to lead their own classroom, of course, but they can support perhaps.
One thing I noticed was the number of students in the class based on the language. So I'm wondering how you approach, for example, Spanish classes there are more students. So maybe those classes are larger than the French classes and the Italian classes. I mean, how is that sort of handled?
So students select their world language in 6th grade, and we typically give students their first choice. So if students want to take that language, that's the one that they typically get placed in. I wouldn't be able to speak to the class sizes, but we do try to keep all the class sizes pretty even. Typically under 25 students.
You mentioned that it's easier to be a certified teacher than a foreign language teacher. Is that based on state requirements?
Well, I think Paul mentioned that it's difficult to become a world language teacher because that means you have to be fluent in a second language, one or two other languages, right? So that narrows down the pool of people that could potentially become a world language teacher. And you also need 30 college credits in that language to become certified. Whereas other certification areas like elementary school teacher, it has more options of the background that you can potentially have to become someone certified in childhood education, for example.
Are we looking to keep all three languages, Italian, French, and Spanish in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, there's been no conversations about changing the
And
program.
are we at all exploring adding Chinese or any other languages?
We have not discussed that, and that would be another area that would be extremely difficult to staff if we were to add that.
Are the advisors of the extracurriculars that you were showing, are they paid?
I don't know that offhand.
Typically they are. Typically they are, but some do volunteer. I don't remember the exact slide, but typically they're.
I appreciate the presentation. Again, I'll just reiterate that my main concern is that we are really helping all of the teachers succeed. And especially if we are dealing with a situation where we don't have the largest pool imaginable of candidates to draw from and we're taking people in. I just want to make sure that we're doing all we can to support them with lesson plans and assistance, a hotline they can call. I don't know, more people going in the classrooms. I just want to feel that they're supported, because then in the end that benefits the students when the teachers are supported. And I think it's fabulous that we offer language programs and that the students are learning. I just want to make sure that we as a district are doing all that we can.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like Paul mentioned, that's part of the reason we have this new position, the Director of Instructional Services. Part of Dr. Contes's responsibilities is developing a more robust teacher mentoring program to make sure that they have all the supports that they need throughout their whole probationary period.
And would it be something that you looked at, for example, if there were 15 students in the French class and for 15 students in the Italian class, but then 30 in the Spanish, sort of like, how are we addressing that situation?
Yeah, I know at the building level, they do their best to even out the classes. So they do take a look at that to make sure that we don't have very
Well, I
large
mean, I know
class
for my
sizes.
daughter, just taking Spanish until AP Spanish at the high school, that the kids who took Italian and French, those classes were half as large. So I think then those Spanish teachers have a much bigger caseload, they have more responsibilities, more students to work with. So, I mean, would we add more classes to maybe make it fair? Because then it doesn't seem fair if students taking these couple of languages are in a much smaller intensive situation where they get one-on-one, and then this has twice as many students over here.
Yeah, and I know that all of our world language teachers work really hard, in all the different languages. But I know that we do work to try to even out the class sizes the best we can. I know you mentioned.
Yeah, so occasionally, and I probably knows the answer to what for anybody else, but at this point, occasionally you'll have a Spanish. In my previous experience, teachers can teach one out of their certification area, and very often our French teachers and Italian teachers certainly very competent in teaching Spanish 1, for example. So we can add some extra capacity there if need be to just smooth things out.
I think, as everyone knows who's ever tried to learn a foreign language, it's just really hard, and it's harder when there are more people in the classroom.
Understood.
So if we can do anything, because obviously if the kids feel successful, like they're learning, like it's not an impossible task to learn the language, they'll stick with it and they'll stay. And I just know it just from talking to other parents, it seems that some of the classes have a lot of kids and some don't, but okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, next item, math investigations curriculum adoption proposal. Dr. Rodriguez.
All right, good evening again. So we're going to talk about our elementary math program. As you may know, a lot of these standards in all of our subject areas have changed recently. So that has caused us to really take a look at all of our current curriculum resources and make sure that they are aligned to the new standards and the new assessments that are being rolled out. You may remember that last school year, we adopted Science 21 as our new science resource for our district. And that was in response to the new science standards that rolled out. This is a similar concept where we are looking to adopt a new math program also in response to the next gen math learning standards that are being implemented. So on the screen, you can see the timeline from New York State of how the new standards are being rolled out. As you can see, spring 2023, so this spring is the first time that all of our students in grades 3 through 8 will be assessed with the new state assessments aligned to the next gen learning standards. So it's important that, of course, we're responsive and are preparing our students to be ready for these new assessments. So this is our timeline that we have followed in studying the new math programs. You can see it's been a pretty extensive process. It began back in spring of 2021. So in 2021, through our math teacher leaders and the curriculum and instruction office, they explore new inquiry-based math programs. So inquiry-based means more hands-on, more student-centered, where students are really discovering the learning on their own. They began the process of exploring potential new programs to replace our existing program, which is Go Math. We had at that time 15 teachers that did pilot the program last school year, which represented teachers from all 8 of our elementary schools. And so they piloted in their classrooms all last year. In the winter of 2022, we had our math content team meetings where we gather all of our math leaders and coordinators K-12 to discuss the progress that was being made in those programs. And we received very positive reviews from the teachers that were piloting the program at the time. So we decided to move forward with having additional teachers try the program. Because of the positive response from the folks that started it the first year, we actually had over 100 teachers that did volunteer to also implement the program in their classrooms. I remember hearing our teacher leaders talking about how the kids all of a sudden love math. They actually reported that math was their favorite subject all of a sudden. So they really saw increased student engagement. And they also really enjoyed just running the lessons compared to what had been used previously. So this past school year, we have approximately 115 teachers district-wide that are currently implementing the investigations program in their classrooms. We did experience some challenges at the start of the school year that caused some disruption in the implementation. We had some technical issues with our internet connectivity that was ongoing and caused us not to be able to use some of the online components of the program. But we work very closely with the technology department, and we have been able to resolve that at this time. So now these programs are fully running. In the winter, so last month during our math content team meeting, we again convened and talked about the progress that we were seeing and making in the programs. At that time, we reviewed some data. But they also recommended that we also survey all of our teachers that are currently implementing the program to get some feedback from them. So we have some academic achievement data to share, and we also have some qualitative data from the teachers that are implementing the program. So I wanted to share this quick video so you get to know more what this program is all about.
Hi there, this is Emily, and I'm an elementary math teacher. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of Investigations 3, the amazing new inquiry-based math program for grades K through 5. Let's investigate 3 key ideas. First, all children have important mathematical ideas. Investigations 3 starts with what children know. All students come to school with ideas about numbers, shapes, measurements, patterns, and data. Investigations 3 builds on the ideas kids have to help them learn new math they've never encountered. It's collaborative, engaging, and meaningful math, like in this game. Now let's investigate a second idea. Teachers help light the learning pathways. Investigations 3 is made for collaboration. It's a student-centered learning environment. And don't worry, we provide just the right amount of teaching support, so you're always learning too. Possible student responses are shown in the curriculum unit to anticipate what students might say. How does investigations support the teacher-student partnership? Professional development videos provide a real look at investigations in the classroom. And since you're doing more on-the-spot teaching and observing, we've created the Realize Scout Observational Assessment Tool to help you with anecdotal notes for formative assessment. Now for our third idea. Technology makes everything easier and better. Investigations 3 provides amazing new digital tools to support teaching and learning, and family involvement. Students and families can access all the math tools, virtual manipulatives, and games on any device. Math words and ideas make it easy to understand the math concept of the day. Parents don't need to be a math expert to understand how the math is taught. And if the internet is an issue, students and families can use a smartphone. Watch the videos with the Bounce Pages app. It's easy, supportive, and totally involving math. There you have it, 3 key ideas about Investigations 3. Start with what kids know. Keep learning as a math teacher, and use technology to help everybody, including parents. Ready to investigate more? Request a sample at the URL on the screen. And thanks for watching.
So as you can see, this is a very different type of program than maybe what you and I are used to. It really is more involved with students and having them discover the learning as opposed to them being told and taught what the procedure should be. It's really about them discovering the process on their own. So I decided to pull some academic achievement data, and I was actually very surprised that we did see tremendous growth in our classes that were using investigations this past year. And I say that I was surprised because this is so new. Our teachers are just learning the program. We had a lot of tech issues. So we know that the first year or 2 of implementation, we don't always see results. So the fact that we are seeing significant gains in the classes that are currently using investigations is definitely very promising. And I believe that as we continue using the program over the years, we will see definitely a lot more, even more growth. One of the challenges the teachers had mentioned, since this program does spiral, so the concepts kind of show up again and again, going from one grade level to the next. Some of the teachers that are using the program for the first time and the students didn't have the exposure the previous year, it made it more challenging, right? Because it was totally new to the kids. They weren't used to the routines. They weren't used to the language. So we believe that once we do have more consistency where students are experiencing a similar program year to year, we will see greater growth. So on the screen, you'll see the comparison of, in green, the classes that were using investigations this year, and in purple were the classes that were not using investigations this past year. You may know that currently the district approved curriculum is Goal Math. That is what we currently use. Part of the reason that we decided to look into a new program back in 2021 was, one, because the Goal Math program that we currently are using is going out of print. So we can't actually order more resources to move forward. And the investigations math program is more aligned to the new standards. So we want to make sure that whatever program we are providing to our students, it is the best one to prepare them for the state assessments and the state standards. So that's what this data shows. But we were also very interested about the teachers' experience and their thoughts about the program, because we know it's not just about the academic achievement data. We also want to know, are students engaged? Are they able to apply new knowledge? All the things that we want to see in our new mathematicians. So we did survey all of our teachers that were using the program. We had 68 teachers respond. You can see we have kind of a good cross-section of all the different grade levels at the elementary level, as well as self-contained ICT, inclusion, and general education classes. So the teachers were asked to respond to several questions. The first one, and it's on a scale of 1 to 4, how effective overall would you rate the investigation program in meeting grade level standards? So on a scale of 4, the average was 3.05. How effective overall in targeting student needs? That was 2.91. And in your opinion, how engaged are students during investigations lessons? So that was rated the highest, 3.33. We also asked teachers to give the top 3 strengths in their opinion for this program. So they all indicated that it's very student-centered, inquiry-based, so students learn through exploring the math. The concept spiral from grade to grade. So again, another reason why it's extremely important that we have some consistency from grade to grade level. It incorporates math centers, workshops, more play-based learning that we like to see in the classroom for students. It's very highly engaging, developmentally appropriate, and it allows for more authentic learning of the concepts. It allows for higher level problem-solving skills and a deeper number sense, and really builds independence. Because again, students are expected to discover the math, on their own, and it encourages student voice when they have to actually explain the math that they've just encountered. We asked teachers what some of the challenges were in implementing the program. They indicated that it does require prerequisite knowledge that the current students may not have had because this was their first time using the program. So pacing and differentiation was challenging for them this year. Prepping for lessons was very time consuming. So teachers indicated that there were a lot of materials that were not included in the kits that they received. Fortunately, this year we are keeping track of all the extra materials that were needed. So we'll be more prepared next school year now that we know exactly all the materials that are needed for the investigations. Number writing and number identification was another area of need. So the program doesn't have explicit instruction on how to write the number 5, how to write the number 3. So that is an area that we have to supplement with. And we do have other resources that we can teach actual number writing and number identification. And also there's a need for unit assessment. So that's an area that we are working on currently in developing assessments that are aligned to the investigations units. So this is the summary and recommendation. Let me just get my notes here. All right. So we know that the curriculum resource itself isn't everything, right? We know that good teaching is good teaching, and we have very strong teachers that are doing well now, and I think will do great with this program as well. But we do have to really make a decision as an organization of choosing a resource that will be used in our classrooms. We already have 60% of our teachers already using the investigations math program. And we are seeing higher achievement rates in the classes that are using the program on average compared to the ones that are not. It is aligned to the next generation learning standards, and it provides an inquiry-based approach for learning. And teachers have rated the program highly in teaching state standards and levels of student engagement. So we are recommending to adopt the investigations program for September 2023. Again, the program that we currently are using, Goal Math, is not available. So if we are going to continue with anything else, we would have to buy a whole new kit of a new edition. So that's part of the reason why we are not recommending phasing it in, because it would be an extra expense, perhaps for another year. The kit for one class costs between $2,000 and $2,400 per section, depending on the grade level. So each grade level is slightly different. But that's the recommendation for us to have all of our students in K-5 have a similar experience in mathematics. Thank you.
Questions? Marion.
So to be clear, currently, Go Math is the district's math program.
Correct.
So you're replacing Go Math with investigations.
That's the recommendation, yes.
Okay. So to go back to Mr. Stock's presentation earlier, or his comment during public comment, Go Math has been around for a while as the district. So
correct.
Even though it is the district's program, whichever one we choose, we do have teachers who are doing something aligned to New York State standards that is not perhaps using the program per se.
So the core math program that we should be seeing in our classrooms currently was Go Math, and we're looking to transition to investigations. We are looking to have more consistency across all of our classrooms because again, it is really important for students to have a similar experience. These programs build on each other. You know, you might remember we had a textbook, kind of a hardcover textbook. This is the equivalent of having a textbook and having everyone teaching that course use the same textbook. In this case, it's really an online platform. So it's kind of that same concept.
Right. No, right. And I actually kind of knew the answer to this question when I started, but I guess where I'm headed is we don't have a space for both, I guess, is what I'd like to know, because I would think that Mr. Stock is not our only creative, inventive, and highly motivated teacher who is going above and beyond a program that comes in a kit to them. So I guess I hate to see something like that stifled, especially if you can prove the results of what you're doing. So I want to know whether we have any space for that. I get what you're saying. I think I hear your accountability thing. I hear you, Daisy. I'm just concerned. So I guess I would like to know how many other teachers are going to be perhaps questioning the edict sort of thing. Like I understand we have something, but if you are following New York State's curriculum and you can produce a result, do we have any room for that? And how I understand maybe perhaps your question's going to be, how do you keep track of all that? But I'm just wondering.
So we know there's no perfect curriculum out there that has every single thing that a teacher might need. And we know good teachers really supplement and add things when they see a need. So that's definitely something that we're not going to see go away. And we want to encourage teachers to be creative and meet their students' needs. But the main program should be the one that's approved for that course. But we know that there will be times that some things may need to be supplemented depending on the students that are in front of you that year.
So I guess my question is, how wide is our latitude for that supplementation? I hate to see somebody be dinged for good outcomes if they have a better way, or at least a way that is producing good results. It's just a concern. I would like to voice it. So that's me voicing my concern.
Okay.
Linda.
Thank you for the presentation. So I have a couple questions, but I'm going to be all over the place with this. This is my third year on the board. We had COVID disrupt the teachers, all of us, big part of my tenure. What about teacher fatigue? Yet another program they have to learn. What are your thoughts on that?
So two thoughts. all of our students have to sit for our state assessments starting in 3 months, right? So I think we do have a responsibility as a school district to make sure that what we're teaching is preparing them to meet the state standards and is preparing them to be successful in those assessments. So that's part of it, right? The responsibility to the children. The other part of it is we get it. It's really difficult to keep up with all the changes that are happening at the state level. And unfortunately, the state didn't change the rollout of this, right? Even though COVID happened, they didn't delay the rollout. So it's a balancing act that we're doing, and we are being very thoughtful in the timing of how things are being rolled out. So that way teachers aren't being affected with so many programs next year. So we are carefully looking at the other programs that are going to be introduced to make sure that one teacher isn't affected too often. So for example, for Science 21, we are pushing that out for 2024 for some of the grade levels that are going to be using the investigations next year in response to the teacher concerns and fatigue.
I asked that question because I work in higher education. I work at Dutchess. And we just transitioned to a new LMS, which could be very time consuming. And we went from the gold standard of Blackboard, which kind of fell off a bit, and we're using Brightspace now. Well, the way they rolled it out was they asked for volunteers because there was a lot of online learning, obviously because of COVID, but there was a lot of more online teachers now, me being one of them. You know, do you want to participate in a pilot program? So I got selected for that, as well as other people. So we piloted in the fall, and we, you know, looked at the good, the bad, the ugly of it. And then they rolled it out for everybody this spring. You know, it's a learning curve, but it was a long time. You know, it started with a small group of us, and now we're all doing it. And we have certain people who we go to with questions and whatnot. So it seems like it was an easier transition. We certainly don't get hit with programs or new things to learn, just like the K-12 or different, obviously. And I guess the one statement I want to say is I'm surprised, or maybe even shocked, that you had such technology issues early on. I mean, didn't we have the bandwidth after COVID? I mean, weren't we like raring to go here? Anything to do with technology? Like what happened, do you know?
I'm going to address that, and then Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you to just give a little bit of insight into that question. Mike is going to have a presentation in about a month, 2 weeks to a month. I can't remember the exact date, about the proposed technology budget. And in that, he's also going to give some background and some context to some of the different things that his department has dealt with in terms of getting us to the place where we can support all of the technology that's now in everybody's hands. But essentially, we're getting a new firewall because we've had some issues. When there was a decision made last year at some point to go to a new filter, and as we tried to adjust the settings and get different things to play nice with each other, there were just a variety of different things that we learned throughout that process. And it was different going from small scale pilots and tests in a beta situation to having more users and different things like that. But at any rate, Mike is much more adept at being able to explain that. And if you could maybe give a high level answer to her question, with the understanding that we're definitely going to get some more detail to you in a couple weeks.
Good evening. Good evening. Just gonna hold the mic because I'm a big guy. As Dave mentioned, we did see several technical issues this fall. One was we were expanding programs. Obviously, those programs use additional bandwidth, and it was pushing up against the capacities of the existing firewall, which has been in place, I believe, for about 7 years. I'll have those figures for you at the next meeting when I do my presentation. That was one thing playing into the issues with the Savas investigations. The other issue was we did make a change for the web filtering system, which was a plan that was in place when I came on board. And we were seeing some ultimately double filtering issues with the filter. So you could initially get to the site, which is usually you just see a block with the filter, but we saw people getting to the site. So it was very hard to narrow down that the filter was causing these issues. We learned working with the Savas investigations team from the company that there's somewhat of a heartbeat or a pulse that makes sure that a student or staff member is logged in. And at some point that was getting interrupted and causing logouts of the program. So it wasn't that people couldn't access the program, it was logging them out unexpectedly and causing consternation or frustration. And it just took a really long time to pinpoint that specific technical cause.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question, Daisy. How much does it cost?
So the program ranges between 2,000 to 2,400 per class. And the price range is because each grade level has different levels of manipulatives, materials that comes with the program. So that's a price.
So do you have a bottom line number, like a specific number?
So we have about, and I'm going to do my budget presentation
course.
next week. But we have about 100 more classrooms that would need to get this program. So it would be between 200,000, 250,000.
Okay, so with that figure, so is Go Math going totally out of business or whatever? Or can you supplement it like you said, going forward?
The current edition that we have of Gold Math is obsolete, so it doesn't, they don't make it anymore.
Right.
So if we were to, we would have to buy a whole new kit of the new version for folks if we didn't buy investigations for them.
And how
We would
much-
have to buy something.
And how much is that?
I would have to look to see what the new Gold Math
Yeah, I mean,
program would cost. Yeah.
I only ask because if the teachers are already trained in Go Math, then that's good. I mean, like, they could just go forward with, the new changes
Mhm.
and, the dollar amount, they shouldn't have to worry about that. That's admin's problem or the
Yeah.
board's problem, I guess. But thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was very informative.
Yeah.
Larry?
I do want to just mention, Linda, that the new program would require new training as well. So even if we did Gold Math, since it's so many editions out, we would also have to provide training for the new edition of Gold Math if we did that.
Okay.
Okay, I have two questions also, but the first one's long and somebody can come in after me if they want. First of all, I should say that I was on the math council when we looked at investigations as opposed to Go Math way back when. And I'm a big fan of investigations. I'm pretty excited about it coming in, but something changed. Maybe I didn't read carefully in my packet, but I read it as adopt the program. And then I came here and people spoke about mandating the program. And I want to say that just my opinion as one board member is that we should absolutely have a common terminology that all the teachers need to use, whether it's renaming or regrouping or carrying or borrowing. We want them all to use the same terminology, that the teachers all need to be on the same topic and following the same pacing, I believe. So that should probably be run by investigations, and they all need to follow the same assessment process. So I would be worried about a teacher who says, well, no, I'm doing it out of sequence, and so my results don't count, because that would be really problematic. But given those caveats, I really hope that we would be encouraging the professionals that the teachers are to use their judgment and use the resources in the way that they want to. There was a lot of talk when I was a teacher about how committed we were, but they didn't want us to be committed. They wanted us to be compliant. And so I guess, and I'm coming to my question, I guess, but I'm not ready for it yet. I want it to be a resource and an anchor, but not necessarily an exclusive program. I absolutely love that it's a play-based learning model, right? I think that is so important. And I'm worried about the materials a little bit, that we don't have all the materials. But can you respond to me a little bit about the difference between adopting and mandating? And again, I'm just copying what you said, really, Marion, but I want to put in my own words.
It sounds so much better when you say it. Plus you have like that teacher cred thing going, so go for it.
So the way that the investigations program comes to us, it's fully inclusive. It has the mini lesson, it has the workshops, it has a student practice. Each lesson takes approximately an hour to complete. So we have an hour of math built into our elementary schedules. And all of the lessons, all of the investigations, they build on each other, right? So it's really important that when you're following the program, that you're following in order. Otherwise, the kids will get confused, right? Because there's a design that went into this, of course. So I guess my response would be that it would be hard to find time to do anything else because you only have the 60 minutes and the lessons are 60 minutes. So I think it would be hard to do anything in addition to that and keep the integrity of the program intact. Once we start pulling things out, we may accidentally pull something out that's really, really important. And all of a sudden our kids have a hole in their learning. So that would be my caution of having too much liberties and pulling things out of the program that is research-based. It's designed by curriculum writers. It's used nationally. Once we start pulling things out of it, we don't know what's going to happen, right? And I think it's our responsibility to maintain the integrity of the program, the integrity of our math program, and not kind of poke holes in it. So that's my response.
Okay, my second question.
Go.
I'm not.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to. I appreciate your answer.
Yeah, before you go, Larry, I'd like to ask for a motion to extend the meeting to 9:30.
I would go 10.
So moved.
So moved. Second,
Second.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. And Larry.
Daisy, this may be a Michael Keeley question, or it might even be a Dr. Carroll question, but really quickly, what's the date that we populate the class lists? And just for the people who don't understand what I'm talking about, with these programs, and again, I'm just talking about Go Math, often it was mid-October or even to mid-November before you could actually use the program with your class because the kids' names weren't put in. It had to be put in by central office. When does that happen? Is that happening promptly now, or because we're probably way better than we used to be, but I just want to make sure because that was a big problem way back when.
Sure, Larry. One of the new programs that we rolled out this fall was a program called ClassLink, which has a component called One Roster. And the idea is that most programs, the rosters will sync nightly as students are added to School Tool. So now you have your systems are integrating. And so School Tool is talking to multiple systems across the district. And ClassLink allows it to do the rostering automatically so that we're not relying on that human factor resource of trying to do it or asking teachers to do it. In some cases, at least places where I worked in the past, they would have to build their roster, add those students. So we're trying to get away from that and automate those processes.
So we're ready to go on day one.
Yes, that was synced on day one. Yeah, the rosters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mary Ann?
I just have a little question. I'm really enjoying my colleagues' questions. Mine's brief. I don't know why I have a teeny bit of confusion. You said something about with the science and making sure you weren't like double implementing, like having certainly one cohort of teachers implementing several different curriculums in the same year. You know, I get the implication that maybe it's not all grades. Like are all the grades rolling? Like, was there something about that I missed? Are all the grades supposed to roll out investigations next year, or is there some kind of gradual rolling?
Right. So for next year, we're recommending that we have K-5 implement investigations, math.
Okay.
I spoke about science 21. So science, we can wait on the lower grades. So you might remember that this past year, we have our 4th and 5th grade teachers using the new science program that we adopted last year. And we were planning on having grades 2 and 3 doing the following year. So we can postpone those grades for science to be able to do the math and not overwhelm the teachers.
And so this is part B of question 1.
Seems to be the
Are there
prevailing
any,
theme.
are there other elementary curriculum changes coming next year? Of like programmatically or in the reading area, or we talked about science. I'm just curious if there's other things rolling out next year. Because I was concerned, and I was happy that you spoke about you're gonna get the materials, but the one, I actually, there's a lot of things that sound quite positive about it. I wasn't, I also have the sort of wiggle room question too, but the comment sort of when you asked for things that you would correct, things that you would change, there was a comment about the time it took to create the materials. Was that because is that really going to be mitigated by whatever you're buying? Or is that just something that is part of rolling out a new program and that every teacher is going to expect that? Or is there some level of collaboration and sharing of that work? And I guess this is like way too many C, D, E, F, but you know, I'm surprised that there aren't some kind of assessments built in. The fact that there weren't any assessments, you know, that if it's such a complete thing.
Okay, let me try to get through all the questions. So the question about materials, so there's two things there. When the teachers first get the program, there were some cutting out of cards that they had to do and creating things for the first time, right? Now that they've gone through a year, a lot of that is already done. So they already have some of these things that were time consuming before, and they have that ready. There's also another piece of just how to organize yourself, because a lot of these lessons are more like a lab, right? Like think of like a science lab that involves a lot of different materials. The first time the teachers are going through it, you know, it's tough because they've never done it before. So we expect that now that they know exactly what's involved, that the following year it'll get easier. And the teachers that are doing it the second year, they do report that, oh my gosh, I figured out a system. I know now I have little buckets at each of the tables and I have the materials organized this way. So they have to kind of figure out a system that works for them during that first year. The other piece was that there's materials that just didn't come with the kits. Like there was one investigations that required raisins. The teachers didn't realize maybe at the moment that they had to get raisins for the kids to be able to store and so on for that lesson. So those are the little things that the teachers were learning in year one. We do have those 15 teachers that are going into year 3 now, and they've actually been participating in more advanced training with Savas, the company for investigations, and they're really serving as those mentors, right? So every building has 2 teachers that is going into year 3, and they're actually really excited to model some of these activities for their colleagues. So that's something that we are putting in place as a support for new teachers that are going into this new. The other piece you asked about was a rollout. So we do have phonics program. So we have foundations that was introduced for kindergarten and first grade this year. Next year, second grade, we'll be learning foundations as the phonics program. So that way kids can continue their phonics instruction. So potentially if I'm a second grade teacher, I would be learning investigations math and foundation. So that would be an example where there would be 2 different programs they would be learning that year. And I do want to talk a little bit about, I guess, the term mandating. So I know the word mandating has a really negative connotation. So I want to stick to the word adopting, right? We adopt curriculum all the time. You know, we adopted a lot of things. In the spring, we adopted foundations, we adopted Heggerty, we adopted Science 21 last school year. This is what we need for math. Right, at this point, we do need to make a decision on our math program for elementary school. So that's why we're recommending this program at this time.
Chip.
I just had some questions, more or less statistical. So you had 115 teachers that participated this year. Why did only 68 respond to the survey?
So I actually thought it was a high response rate, to be honest. Typically, we don't always have too many teachers respond to the surveys, but it was sent to all teachers, and those are the amount that responded to the survey.
Because I mean, if I break it down, and you're saying that, you know, 60% of the teachers participated, and basically 60% of them responded to the survey, then we really only have a 35, 1/3, a little over a third of the teachers across the district that actually provided their feedback on that, and that just seems kind of low
Right.
in terms of making it, broad brush decision.
Right, and again, I do want to point out, that's not the only data point that we use. The first 15 teachers, the teacher leaders that we have in each of the buildings that did it the first year, last year, they all participated in this process, and they all really support this program in meeting student needs. And we also saw it in the academic achievement data that we do see that our kids are growing and learning more than they were on average. Typically in surveys, we don't really have that high of a response rate. So that's actually pretty higher than normal for surveys.
Is that concerning, in terms of a response rate that? I mean, because we're asking these people to participate and then give us feedback one way or another, whether or not they felt it was an effective tool, but then
Right.
only to get a 60% response rate. I mean, like, what do the other 40% think? Do they just not have an opinion or just don't want to verbalize it? Because like when I look at a rating of 3 out of 4, I think, well, 75, that's okay. I'm not gonna use that Google review, if you will, to make a purchase or hire somebody. But it just surprised me that we didn't get a better response or better responses from the 115 people that participated. It would have been nice to have had 115 responses to be able to better evaluate what the quartile felt about the program.
Right, and if that's something that's requested, we can potentially circle back to the folks that did not respond.
We could mandate them.
We can ask them to respond.
Oh, sorry. I was just mixing my words between.
But again, the reason I wasn't too concerned about the response rate, because it is significantly higher than all other surveys that we typically do when we send out surveys to the teachers. So this was a high response rate.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna call on myself this time. I read through your presentation at home a couple times. And I'm quoting some of the things that are in the presentation. And I'm gonna combine them then if I can. I'm gonna make Larry look like a biker here. You say the lessons are time consuming. Where are they going to find the time is my question there. Assessment tools don't align. We have nothing yet, and we're jumping into this program without hearing from the other 40% of the people that didn't participate in the pilot. Can't we phase this in and make this a tool in their toolbox? And we have some teachers, and I congratulate Mr. Stock for a very good presentation, a lot of graphics where he's had some good results. If we've got some people that got some good ideas, why aren't we taking advantage of you and using those folks as peers? And finally, if, Chip took my 68 response question, but if this is so positive with the 115 people that did it, why aren't the people that didn't do it, haven't heard from them? This is something you need to do. So that's a lot. I'll let you try and respond to that.
I'm sorry, repeat the question again. You want me to respond to?
Let's go to the videotape. Lessons, time consuming. Assessment tools that don't align. This was all part of your presentation I saw when I looked at it. And I'm asking, why can't we phase this in and, have the people that are doing it now continue, and those that aren't, if they want to come over to the dark side, so be it. If they want to continue to do what they're doing and they're getting results, let them do it. It just seems to me that, we're jumping in pretty fast on something that has technical issues, internet glitches, and I'm not sure how, if the internet's down, they can use their phones. And you throw into the mix teacher fatigue and all the things that teachers have to do these days. And here's just another one that we're throwing at them.
Right. So with the assessments, that is an area that we're going to be working on this school year to create standards aligned assessments that are aligned to the units for the investigations unit. That's something that we had to do with Gold Math as well. So it's just something that we have to do now again. I know generally teachers, the feedback that I've received is that they actually prefer having some input in the assessments as well. So this actually gives them an opportunity to have some voice in developing the common assessments that will be aligned to investigations. As far as lesson planning, I think that the report I get from the teachers that are using it for the second year is that it's gotten tremendously easier. So the time that it takes to plan the lessons, it's much less than it was year one. Because again, with anything new, it's just harder and takes longer. So we believe that over time that they will get, it will get faster and easier once they have kind of a system set up. And because we have the 15 teachers that will be in year 3 that have volunteered to be supports and be those models for them, we think that will also help alleviate some of the trial and error that folks that did it the first year had to do. As far as the tech issues, they have been resolved. So fortunately, we have that addressed. It took time, and I know it caused a lot of teacher frustration in addressing that. As far as phasing in, we would have to kind of carefully look to see what that would look like. Because we had our teachers volunteer this past year, we have some teachers in every grade level, right? So typically we roll new programs out grade level by grade level. So if we were to roll this out, then we would have to pick a grade level and then I guess work our way up or down from there. But just keeping in mind that students in grades 3, 4, and 5 at the elementary level will be taking these assessments starting this year. So we would have to kind of weigh those options if we were to do a phase-in approach.
Thank you, Kelly.
I also am concerned about the amount of response we got for the results, for the survey results. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Stock's thorough presentation and a couple of points that he mentioned when he said that his program outperformed Go Math by a 33-point margin and investigations cohort by a 21-point margin. I think that the success of what he's doing is something that we should be examining. Investigations managed to get only a minority of students, 42% to grade level, but the program that he was using, his program, succeeded in elevating a majority, a sizable majority, 63% to grade level. So these numbers, these statistics are very impressive to me, and I don't think we should be in a position to say, put that in the garbage, what's working so successfully for you. That really concerns me that that's something that we're thinking of doing.
Okay, anyone else? Mary Ann.
Ed had a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Ed.
I'm sorry, Ed.
Daisy, you have a tough job, don't you? It is the concept of having standard curriculum instruction across the district has been one that we've pursued from probably since the beginning. And I, for one, would support that. I don't know how you would support multiple curriculums from one building to the other with people who have their own lab creating their own curriculum. I just don't know how you would do that across the district and have it supported and have the accountability that you need. Having said that, a couple questions. How do we assure ourselves that once we get a standard curriculum, that it's the best curriculum going forward? How do we how do we know that? Both in the selection and in the benchmarking and accountability measures as you move forward. There is what is a significant difference that made you decide to recommend investigations versus Go Math versus the presentation that Andrew presented, which was forgive me, Andrew, was a concoction of multiple curriculums that he's been able to invent himself in his classroom with great success. So how do we make sure that we're able to capture the best, I guess? And does having a standard curriculum trumps having the best curriculum? How do as you lie awake at night, how do you assure yourselves that we're providing the best curriculum to achieve the best results for students?
So how do we monitor? We looked at one data point now, just the iReady, right? And that's not all the data we could potentially gather. So by the end of the year, we'll have the state assessments as well. So we will be able to see any differences and how our students are performing on the state assessments based on, depending on which program they're currently using. We'll have we'll have the common assessments developed. So we'll be able to look at our common assessment data, our iReady data, as well as our state test scores. And obviously continually to talk to teachers to figure out exactly what they're seeing in the classroom as far as meeting student needs. So those are all things that we have to continue to monitor. It's not like this is going to only happen once. And as far as how this program was selected, so this program was selected back in 2021. So this was with prior administration, but it was selected in collaboration with the math leaders, right? So we do have math leaders at every building that represent that department and that building. So they kind of speak on behalf of their building when they're making curricular decisions. So it was selected in collaboration with the math leaders from all 8 of our elementary schools, along with the curriculum and instruction office. So they looked at different programs and they identified this one as being the most promising. And when they tried the program for the first time in 2022, they did experience really great success with it. So that's how the program was selected.
Could you
initially.
define that, what you mean by promising?
They felt that they had very high engagement of the students. So the kids were enjoying math. They felt that before they weren't enjoying math with the previous program that they had, because it's very hands-on and inquiry-based. They saw that students were really benefiting from the program. And then we also saw it through the achievement data. One of the difficult decisions as a district is that we're a large district. We have 8 elementary schools. We have 35 teachers in every grade level. And we do have to make the decisions related to curriculum as far as what resource are we providing to teachers to be able to guide them, in the classroom. So that is one of the responsibilities that we have, as district office, to be able to provide teachers with that
Larry.
guidance and that support.
So
Could I just ask one, and I'll end after this. But the word best, was that part of the evaluation on it? And how do you plan to, and do you have the ability, if this is not the best after this 6 months to a year that you pilot your program, how difficult would it be to switch to something else? Or would there be a need to switch to something else? Or are we locking ourselves into something that we're not sure is the best yet?
So in previous conversations we had with the content team, so we have the structure of the K-12 content team that looks at resources and makes recommendations for resources that we're using. No other program came up. So another program that you heard about earlier today, that wasn't brought up by the math leader or through the content team until this past week. So that's not something that we had an opportunity to explore further. And as far as the best program, I don't think there's no one program that would be the best. There's pros and cons to each program. I think a lot of it has to do with really good teaching, professional learning for our teachers, and having them have some autonomy in how they meet the needs of students. So that's part of it. We currently have 115, so we have over half of our teachers have participated in training for this program, and they have the kits in their classrooms, right? So there would be a significant investment if we decided to change course. Those teachers would have to learn another program now, and we would have to buy the programs again if we chose something else. So that would be the cost of changing course at this point.
Yeah, I wasn't, there was the flexibility of changing, and probably cost would be would be less to ensure that you had it on the front end rather than waiting to try to change it 2 years, 3 years down the road. But just editorial comment, I appreciate the ability, the opportunity to have the discussion. This isn't on the agenda for approval this evening, as it is, but I think the report and discussion is valuable and something we should.
It's not on the agenda for approval.
It's not on for approval.
It's not on for approval tonight.
That's what I was on the report and discussion. It was rhetorical.
Oh, okay.
So but I think it's a healthy discussion. Thank you.
Okay, Larry.
And I just want to clarify a point. I'm really in favor of adopting this program. I think having it in everybody's hands is a great idea. You know, I think it's a good program. I am concerned about the assessment thing. As I remember, it may have changed, but it was very much a spiraling program. So it was jumping around a lot, which makes it a little harder to assess. And it's a separate question how much we mandate it within a classroom. And I do think that that's a continuing discussion that we need to have. But, you know, I think the best education is having a great teacher with enough resources and a vision of the district. And I think that this is a good enough program, but the teachers will make it better. But I don't think it has to be exclusive. But I had to get that last one in.
But we know that the teacher is the most important part of this, right? Having strong teaching is the most important part in delivering solid math instruction. So we know that for sure.
And Marianne.
I guess, I just want to clarify a point because as we just said, we're not voting on it tonight. So as we kind of ruminate on it a little bit. So Go Math as it currently is, it does not meet state standards, right?
Correct.
But
that's why it's being phased out.
What did you say? I didn't hear
The
you.
Go Math doesn't meet the new state standards. Right? That's what's my understanding. But if you, can you put
Hold
your
your
microphone?
microphone
I'm
in a
sorry.
little bit.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Let me say,
There you go.
I'm just clarifying some points in my head, like I say, as I'm ruminating about this. The Go Math we currently own does not meet the new state standards.
Right. It's not aligned to the next generation learning standards.
Is it reasonable to think that the new packets would? Like, is that if you had to rebuy it, that they do meet state standards or no?
Yeah, that's why they
That's why that's why
discontinued.
you have to pay. Right.
Correct.
Okay, and so it's probably pretty similar, but the whole idea of consistency. So so I'm just trying to clarify, you pretty much have to invest some amount for every classroom next year, with the exception of the 115 that you've already invested for investigations, if you go that way.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thanks.
Okay, and I'm calling myself again. Now, when is the training going to be done for this new program?
It's ongoing throughout the year. So for this past year of the new cohort that started, the teachers that started, they had some voluntary training that they attended at the end of August, and then every other month throughout the year.
So the 40% that didn't get involved, when would they get their training?
It would be a similar
Over the summer?
setup. So we would have folks that are interested in coming this summer. Some teachers want to get a head start. They're kind of nervous about it. So we would provide that opportunity again, if anyone is interested in starting in the summer, start planning. But then we'll also provide time throughout next year to get ongoing training.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kelly?
I don't know. I mean, cost can't really be the issue, but it seems to me if we're getting the latest version of Go Math, there's probably a discount, I would think. If we already have it and we're just getting the next version, one would think it's not full price, but I don't know. That would be interesting to know. And then I'm just sort of, I don't know. I guess I would just be interested in what the teachers, what they think, you know, the best approach would be for them in their teaching, for them to be successful. Sort of, I understand we're trying to increase our scores. So I understand we're looking at different programs. But I'm interested in sort of, I don't know how if we can do this quickly. But before we make a decision, sort of understand what they think the right approach is. You know, using the new version of Go Math, trying this new situation, which jury's still out. Also, just for my own knowledge, like how many different math programs are there to choose from? Are there like 3 or are there like 100?
No, there's hundreds of potential programs, yeah.
And I will give you this, that if it's something that came to you that you have to work with, right, that's kind of tough. So I'll acknowledge that.
Okay, could I get a motion to extend the meeting to 10 o'clock?
So moved.
The motion second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Okay, we're good. Any other questions for Dr. Rodriguez? Gone. Thank you. Okay, moving on, new business. Our new business section of the agenda lists several items for individual resolution approval. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to our board members in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. So the first item on there is the BOCES nomination. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention. Motion carries. Let's see, where are we here? Letter C is the second reading of the 2 policies. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Motion carries. Okay, we had the walk-on resolution. She has it. Okay. Everyone, yeah, please.
That the Board of Ed accepts the resignation of Stacy Morgan effective March 23rd or 25th? 23rd, 2023.
Okay. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Number 9, future discussion items. Anyone have any future discussion items? There being none, we'll move on. Now, item 10, business consent agenda. Our consent section of the agenda lists several items for approval by a single motion. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to our board members in advance to ensure an extensive and thorough review. And may I have a motion?
You're separating them, right? Weren't you separating things
yeah.
out?
Ah, yes, okay. We are separating.
Oh, we were supposed to do that.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, we're separating them. Let's start with A or B rather. Moving on to C. Administrator retreat contract.
So you want to move those back up to new business.
You move them back to new
That was
business.
actually agenda change.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I get this straight. So letter C is move to new business.
Andy.
CND, we're gonna vote separately. Still in new business.
Yeah.
My apologies. Okay, so the first one then would be the administrator retreat contract. And we have a motion.
This is item
This is
D. under
item,
business.
yeah, it's
It's actually.
it's item D. Well, it's actually item E.
E?
It's item E
we
because
added the
the
resignation.
last one, so, okay, so
This would be E.
this would be E.
Administrative retreat contact.
E and new business.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Now we can have discussion.
No, you don't need a discussion. It's consent agenda, so all you need is someone to.
No, we
Just moved it.
Yeah, we moved it to new business.
It doesn't matter where you move it. It just, you take it out of consent agenda and put it into new business for discussion. It does not require a vote.
It's a new,
It's new
no,
business.
it's new, it's not
It's not a consent.
presentations, it's new business.
It is, well, yeah, you move it.
I think this is this.
It was requested that it be moved to new business,
Not that it be taken off.
not that it be.
I didn't say taken off. I say,
It's not a future
yeah,
discussion.
you
item.
want to
It's new
discuss it
business.
as a separate item. You can call it new business, old business, their business, your business. You'd pull it out of the consent agenda for separate discussion is what we're doing. To be discussed and voted on separately from the consent agenda that's been reported. That's,
I
and,
think we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
But we're gonna vote. Yeah, I think we're all
Yeah.
saying the same thing.
but I'm saying you don't vote on, you can't vote it down. It is a consent agenda item.
But that was the
So-
whole purpose of us pulling it out and putting it
That
into
was
new
the
business
purpose,
was so
yeah.
that
Yeah,
it could be. Because otherwise we'd have to pull it off the consent agenda and say, put it on next meeting
The thing
and
we
put it
did,
on new business.
the thing we
No,
did wrong
no,
was not pulling it
no,
at the
Chip,
beginning.
you wouldn't. Consent agenda is just that. One person can dissent to every item in the consent agenda. You only need one. So all you're asking is that rather than vote on it as part of the body, you're gonna pull the consent agenda items out for separate discussion and a separate vote from the consent agenda. Because
We agree.
So what,
Correct, we're all-
but it doesn't
We're all in
require,
agreement.
it doesn't require a vote.
what Ed is saying is when we said we were moving them, we had a first, a second, and then you said discussion, and he was saying, we don't need discussion,
No,
we're just
we weren't-
moving it out.
And you know,
We weren't doing that. We'd already pulled them out. We were actually opening the discussion on the first one we moved, which is the administrator retreat.
Right,
But-
exactly.
Right. So it wasn't, we had moved them out.
We're not
already.
talking about the pulling
Yeah.
out from consent.
It is.
Okay.
confusing.
We're talking about discussion.
Right.
On the
He's saying
motion
we
and
skipped
second.
the step that we didn't vote on whether to pull them out.
Yes,
Am I saying that?
No, Because he's saying we don't need to vote. them
We don't
out. He
need to
thought
do
that's
that.
what we were
we
doing.
had
Oh, okay.
requests from
Yeah.
two different board members to pull them from consent. And that's what we did. Okay.
well, it's getting late. I won't
I think we're all
belabor the
same
point,
way.
but it's it is part of the consent, it's part of the agenda that you've already approved. So one person pull it out of the agenda for separate discussion, and then you just start discussion. I thought I heard you saying you were approving it for new business.
No,
No,
Okay,
don't worry, you're good. You're good. You got it
okay,
right.
now I'm really.
And it's already been first and second, and now.
We have a-
open for
we-
Discussion
Right,
on item E,
item,
under new business,
right.
administrative retreat
Administrative
contract.
retreat contract. And who wants to speak to this? If there's any discussion to be had.
I'll speak. $36,000 for 1.5 days of work seems like a lot of money. I'm in the business of hiring consultants at my law firm. That's a lot of money. And I can think of many other places where we could spend that money.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay,
I guess I'll jump in.
Larry?
I think we're talking though about somebody who's going to be able to lead the leaders of our district. And probably is coming from some other place that has costs and again, you're probably more savvy than I am, but I don't find it shocking or concerning.
And Dave, this is something that you'd be working with Kuros in terms of developing what the content would be that they would work on prior to coming, or are they coming with their content and saying, this is what we're doing?
The reason that we identified him is because of the type of work he does and the type of presentations that he creates and the thematically, the way he approaches helping us move our work along, but it is not, he will sit down and work with us to try to construct the message, construct the agenda, construct the pre-work and the follow-up work, and provide the resources to principals to help lead the work in a way that is customized to our needs. So he's not just, he doesn't just, deliver the same, he has similar themes, but it's not just some kind of packaged message everywhere he goes or whatever. He will work with us to make sure that it meets our needs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Abstentions. Okay. We got three and abstentions. All those, okay, motion carries. Okay, F, MTSS support program review proposal. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Kelly.
I have to again say, $115,000. I was at my son's basketball game at UVMS. The ceiling is collapsing. There are plastic tubes carrying water from the ceiling to the ground, so it hopefully does not fall on the kids as they're in gym class. We have rain falling from our ceilings in the computer classroom on the computers at UVMS. Let's not even talk about the high school. I just $115,000. I mean, I don't know what we think we have all this money. $115,000. I'm shocked. Never mind $36,000 for 1.5 days.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions?
I'll just make one comment, which is I thought it was a pretty thorough proposal. I like the fact that they're going to be here for quite a while, and they want to get teacher involvement, and I read it a couple of days ago, so I'm kind of quickly looking through it now. But this is something we talked about as part of our MTSS work, which is looking to see what we're doing well and what we're not doing well. And at some point, this is what people charge. We could maybe do it internally. I think we have people that it's very difficult to time of internal groups together to assess our own, and they don't necessarily act the expertise of what the best practices are nationwide. I think it's worth doing. I thought it was a good presentation.
Mary Ann, just to go off what you said, and I respect what you say, as I always do. I took out 2 words about what you said, teacher involvement. I can't even imagine where the time is coming for these teachers to be fully engaged and involved with something else. I mean, I get the shakes with all that they have to do in their day. That's all I have to say.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Abstention?
Did I say that? Did I vote no?
Did you vote no?
Yes.
Okay, so 3. Okay, all of them, okay, motion carries. And now we are on to the business consent, which I already read. Consent agenda lists several items for approval by a single motion. Documentation concerning these items have been provided by our board members in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Moving on. Item 11. We have nobody for public comment. And we are moving on. Big reports. Okay, let's start with policy. Yes.
I'm sorry, policy.
Policy.
We had a meeting yesterday. We discussed the memorial policy. We discussed memorials, dedications. We discussed contributions. We're still in the process of thinking about different aspects of how we're going to put together that policy. We also discussed the quiet room and the meditation room. And we started discussing the attendance policy. We're going to be meeting again in 3 weeks to continue our discussions.
You have a date? What's the date?
3 weeks from yesterday. Hold on.
March 6th.
Thank you. Okay, audit finance,
Nothing at this time.
advocacy.
Sorry. I just wanted to again remind you that we did send the letter on February 1st to the Dutchess County legislators. We got a response yesterday. Not super positive, but I forwarded that all to you. So you have that in your hands. Tomorrow, I'll be journeying to Albany to meet with 2 senators, 2 assembly persons. Mary Ann's going also with a group from Dutchess County School Boards. So we'll go and talk to our legislators a little bit in person from the state level this time.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Health and safety, anyone want to report on that? I know Dave's not here. Okay, leave that alone. Organization reports, Dutchess County School Boards Association.
Kind of what Mary Ann just said. We're all involved in the lobbying efforts right now.
Yes.
Oh, for Dutchess County School Board? Yeah. Oh, it's the first Monday of next month. Or the first Thursday, I'm sorry, Thursday, March 2nd.
Okay, next, Arlington Education Foundation. We have a meeting next month. I think it's the 1st of March. And nothing else to report. Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, we had the last meeting that was relatively basic, but I did meet with the outgoing and the incoming executive director about supporting some innovative, the potential to support some innovative work to start to play around with virtual reality and artificial intelligence and try to get our heads wrapped around how we can start to look to be ready for the avalanche that's coming, I guess, for lack of a better word. But we did talk with our counseling coordinator, and took a look at some of the career counseling modules that are associated with a company that the county and the community college and the and BOCES are starting to work with. So we might plug into that a little bit and just see if we can make some inroads with career pathways and supporting some of that work that's going on at the high school. So that was a side meeting outside of the foundation meeting, but it is a conversation that they will likely be having with their board when they think about where they want to put resources.
Okay. Okay, thank you. PTA, PTSA.
Next meeting is tomorrow night, virtual. Tomorrow night, sorry, it's February 15th. Sorry, it's the mass thing.
Update Dutchess County BOCES. Anybody know? Okay, Arlington Connect.
The facilitating committee met last Thursday evening to review the previous community engagement session on communications and to plan for our next session, how facilities affect learning. The presentation will be given by our architects DLR group on February 23rd. The communications session had been rescheduled and is believed that the change resulted in a smaller but still very engaged and helpful showing of community members. Ms. Erlbacher's presentation was very well received. The upcoming presentation is one of two that will be given by our architects. It'll focus on possibilities and inform us on upgrades to our schools in general terms that are research-based and evolved out of walkthroughs and meetings with our faculty, administrators, buildings and ground staff. I want to manage expectations, so it's important that everyone understand that the stunning visual presentation is DLR's past work to give an idea of how mostly minor renovations, paint, better designed, more flexible workspace furniture, et cetera, can make a better functioning, more inviting and stimulating learning space. Specific design options for our schools will be presented in the second presentation by DLR, presenting options based on the feedback from this meeting. We're all hoping that our community will come out to help us plan our future beautifully renovated schools. I want to make sure that everyone knows that if you want to get the information and view the presentations but missed them, they are on our district website along with videos and summaries of community feedback. It's all closed captioned and ready for you under Arlington Connect at our district website. The next session will be offered twice, as Dr. Moyer mentioned, on the 23rd. That's next Thursday, 5:30, and again at 7. Babysitting is provided under Mr. Wimet's supervision and with his staff. This is the time for your input on the direction you want your district to take. Mrs. Erlbacher, do you have anything you wanted to add? Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, superintendent's closing remark.
None, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board reflections. Marion.
I just wanted to say, I didn't know whether to speak up during the BOCES update or not up ahead, but I went to visit took the tour of the new BOCES facility now that it's completely refurbished. It's amazing what they have done and how inviting and beautiful the space is. And I can't imagine that the kids that are being educated in that space are not head over heels, feeling loved and supported, and just it's beautiful. So I just wanted to give them a big shout out. We did well with our money that we've put forth for that project.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Board reflections. Linda.
I wanted to thank whoever provided the snacks and the drinks and then especially the candy. I also would like to thank and hope that we have more student speakers like we did today. They were inspiring and well-spoken, and it's a really great reflection of our district. And I hope they're at every board meeting in different subsections of students.
I agree. Anyone else?
I have something I would like to, while many of the teachers are gone, I think there are some here. I just wanted to thank them for coming tonight. When I looked in the audience, I saw teachers that my children had from elementary school at Noxon, at UVMS, and at the high school, and they had profound effects on their lives. And I'm forever grateful for the wonderful teachers we have at Arlington. I do think that we as a board need to be spending more time listening to what our teachers have to say. And one of the things that they have told us in various forms is that they have consultant fatigue. And I definitely think that that is something that we need to keep in mind going forward in terms of our planning.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna throw in a personal one. I had a friend that I used to sit in dialysis with for 4 years, who recently got a kidney from Texas,
Oh, wow.
and he just got out of the hospital. I know he's listening tonight,
Oh, nice.
so I wish him well. Good luck, David. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Okay. Who seconded it?
Second.
There's-
all those in favor, please say aye.
I.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We're adjourned.